Well, let's take a look at kind of, so we've kind of talked about a range of hot malt hops. We've kind of talked a lot of hot side stuff right now. So let's move over to the cold side a little bit, and fermentation temperatures. The only one maybe I've used Cosmic. No, I think I've ran just recently since our partnership with Saucy started. That's the first time I started using some of these thiolized strains, and it's been fun to work with. I'll actually be doing a taste test video of our one of our core IPA Sabo.
Nice.
I have a side by side, essentially the same recipe. There's a date difference in brew days. It's different brew days, but one brewed same recipe with thiolized with Heliogazer, and one with London 3. And so I'm just gonna side by side them, and I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll be interesting. I haven't recorded that yet, but that is something I'm going to be doing. So I'm gonna try to I need to do some prep on it too, because sometimes I'm in a hurry to record my tasting recipe breakdown ones, and this is going to be like a standalone episode. So I want to make sure it has the right amount of information and the right feel, when I do it. But anyhow, getting on to the cold side now, and fermentation temperatures. You're doing you have some wrinkles going on, because you are doing some blended ferments. But if you're using something like Cosmic Punch, Heliogazer on its own, what are some of those temperature ranges that you're typically using for those yeasts?
I have been keeping those lower, and they have a range, whatever, whoever's yeast you're buying, they have a range. I kind of like to keep those on the lower end. And it's funny that you bring that up, because I saw one of your videos recently, and you were talking about Heliogazer, and you were talking about harvesting and reusing it, and your assistant walked by or whatever and was like harvesting the yeast, and you said, "Does it smell like sulfur?"
Yeah.
Dude, those yeast strains can kick sulfur out, man. Like
they really do, man. And it's actually in my notes for a little later, but we can just talk about it right now. I tasted, I was at a brewery, and they had a thiolized lager on. The beer was great. I mean, it was clean, very well fermented, really dynamic thiol contribution on it. It did have a little sulfur on it, and I was actually talking to the brewer about it, but honestly, I didn't care. Like, first of all, it was cool to be drinking the beer, you know what I mean? Because there was so much interesting about it, and there's a little match strike on it. I'm not going to sweat it too hard, but there is you can pull sulfur with these yeasts for sure. Yeah, for sure. Have you had problems with sulfur in these yeasts?
No. So we haven't in the finished product. And I think there is something to say about maturation time. So just letting these thiol heavy beers specifically kind of sit and just finish up, not in a lager sense, but not in a lager time span, but in a lager sense. Just let them finish up and clean up. I mean, so my thought on this is that we are pushing, these thiols are essentially sulfur compounds, and we're pushing the
I'm glad you said that, because I wasn't sure.
Loading the beer up with sulfur compounds.
Yeah.
Or the wort up with sulfur compounds. So, if that yeast can't get them all, what's left is these sulfur compounds.
Sure.
So I think, yeah, the heavier you go to try to blow your face off with dials, you really need to like be conscious of that and let maturation happen. And in my experience with these strains, I think the lower temperature has minimized the sulfur output, I guess, in a sense. I'm fermenting like heliogazer at like 64, 66. Typically.
Oh, that's
like
low. That's low.
Yeah.
I've ripped some stuff on the higher side, and I don't have any of the tasting videos out on that stuff. But I have been. I have a beer up right now called Throwback, and we can actually talk about this when we get into dry hopping a little bit more.
Yeah, it sounds like a lovely beer.
It was clear as hell. But it was made with heliogazer. And it does have like that. Yeah. It does have that real. It has that big passion fruit thing to me, like explicitly like dense passion fruit, and it does like trend into like it's this line between passion fruit and sulfur, and it's not a farty beer, bro. I would tell you I would tell you if it was farty. I've made farty beer before. Okay. But it's not that, but like you start to realize like the lines between these different flavors and aromatics are much closer than you think, right? And sometimes it's a little eye-opening, but yeah. So anyways, what did you say? You had a question about that beer that I was just talking about?
Well, that might come is one of the topics that we're gonna.
Yeah. We'll talk dry hopping. Yeah. So let's just make sure.
It was dry hopping and process aids that I want to.
Yeah. And I think I think for me, this is a dry hopping issue, not process aid at all.
Okay.
So
no. I'm curious about the process aids you used. To make that beer what it is. Yep. Using that yeast strain.
Yeah. Yes. And I will tell you this. I think it's this and this only. You dry hop on day one. The only beers that I have firm hopped, are the clearest damn beers. Sometimes I wish I could make my lagers as clear as these friggin' firm hopped beers. Like, and I'm saying day one, like within 24 hours. Every time I've dry hopped a beer within 24 hours of yeast pitch, it comes bright. I'm using London 3. I have 20 to 25% wheat and or oats in it. There is nothing about these beers that should come clear other than the fact that it's firm hopped within 24 hours. Now, if you listen to Laura Burns, Dr. Burns, her stuff, she's saying the closer you get to day 6, 7, that's when you're going to throw a lot of haze with that dry hop.
Sure.
Yeah. But that's why that got clear as hell, because I'm serving Sabo right now, which was made with heliogazer, and it's got plenty of haze, and it has 100 mils per barrel of biofine in it.